it's like it's worth like half your grade. And like you study all night, and by study, you probably have your book open while you're on your phone. And yeah, or you actually studied, who knows? Okay, and then you're in your desk, and you're like, okay, I got this, I'm ready. This is easy, I know my stuff, I pay attention enough, right? They put you the test down thing, you start putting your name on the paper, and then you read the first question, and you go, oh no. And then the rest of the test is like in Chinese, and you're like, yep, no. See you later. That feeling is just the worst. And so I kind of want to prepare you for what we're going into. Oh, okay. Now, it looks a little bit different when it comes to our faith when it comes to God, or our fears of failure when God has called us to do something. So, I'm going to read a story in Matthew. It's going to be 25 verses 14 through 30. And it talks about servants who are given talents, or if you don't know what a talent is, it's basically a type of currency. And so, I'm going to read it. So if you guys want to turn there, go on your little glow Bibles. If you have the real Bible, that's awesome. Does anybody have the real Bible? No? It's okay. There's an app for everything now, huh? Okay, so Matthew 25, 14 through 30, it says, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. The servant who received 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went and worked and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they used his money. The servant whom he had entrusted 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you have given me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received 2 bags of silver, he came to the king and he earned 2 more bags. And the king was like, let's celebrate. Good job. Well done, faithful servant. And then the guy with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back. But the master replied, you wicked and lazy servant. That's kind of harsh, isn't it? That's like, you wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest upon it. That's pretty intense. But let's go back into that, because sometimes it's easy to think what you would have said as a Bible hearer. Like, oh, well, if I was that guy, I would have done this. It's like, oh, would you? You know, like, he was terrified. He was like, okay, this guy kind of seems harsh. What if I lose all the money? What if I place a bet on the wrong horse, not literally, but like, and it's completely gone? You know, what, would he kill me? Would he be upset? Would he be mad even though I tried? Like, that's kind of hard to get through, so he hid it. And so some of you guys may be afraid of losing something. I'm going to go back into that really quick. Is the other 2, they were given other amounts. One was given 5, the other was given 2. I feel like the guy with 5 probably was more nervous than any of them because he had so much more to lose, right? Yeah. Regardless, the 3rd man was the one that was the feared failing. Some of you guys have been given a platform in your school, and you're afraid to look silly. Some of you may feel God is calling you to pursue ministry, but you're afraid because you feel like you're not good enough. And first of all, that's a lie. You are good enough. And then some of you are paralyzed to not do anything because you don't want to make the wrong decision. Can I be real? The first point that I want to talk about, It's not about you. Luke 9:23 says, "Then he said to all of them, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." Taking up your cross daily is, if you've been around in church, you hear that a lot, and it's kind of like a Christianese term, and like, we just say it, and we don't really know what it means. But in case you guys didn't know, Jesus died on a cross. And it's like, taking up your cross is not easy. Taking up your cross might be sacrificing some things. It might be, denying yourself certain things because you're pursuing God. What if you fail? What if I fail? What if I mess up? You have all these what if thoughts going through your head. And I'm preaching to the choir. I stutter sometimes, as you guys may have noticed, which is awful, especially if you're in an argument. Have you ever stuttered while you're in an argument? You lose your job. Preparing this message, I was terrified. And it's just so funny, like I said, like the irony in all of that. And it's scary stepping out in faith when God has called you to do something. And it's not easy. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, well, you guys just need to get over it, then it's fine, it's perfect, and you're great. It's like, no, it's a push. But do you trust God enough to fulfill his end? Yeah. Right? What if God uses you to bring a revival to your school? What if God uses you to reach that kid in the cafeteria that no one talks to because everyone thinks he's weird? What if God uses your platform, influence, or whatever that looks like to show people his love? What if God? And all you had to do is say yes. We need to stop saying, what if I? We need to start saying, what if God? Because his plans, his power, his knowledge is way more than what we have. I mess up on a daily basis. Like, I am clumsy. Like, I work at Dutch Bros, and so there are times where I literally will spill a whole drink on the ground. And you just kind of stare at it, you're like, okay, well, moving on. We're going to start over. And it's humbling, but we are bound to mess up. But that doesn't take away that God can't use you. The second point I want to make is God trusts you with what he has given you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it in the first place. The master in the story said himself that the third guy was going to do nothing with what he gave him. He could have put it in the bank and gained interest off of it. Are you going to do absolutely nothing with the gifts that God has given you? Some of you guys may think, I don't have gifts. I don't do anything. You are talking to the wrong person. No, each one of you has something that God has placed in your life.
Yeah. It's true.
In a culture where we compare and contrast and we think we won't ever be enough, he has given you what he has given you because he knows he can trust you with it. Because he knows that you are enough. Romans 12:6-8 says we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. What are you going to do with what God has given you? Sorry. So, when you are at school and you hear the news that a student has committed suicide, and you see him all the time, people think, oh, well, that kid would never have done it. You don't think of those things that happen. And I'm not trying to get dark, I'm trying to be real, because this stuff happens. And it's scary. And you guys have heard this. We tell you guys all the time, we don't hide anything from you guys. We tell you straight up why campus clubs and you reaching your school is important. Because sometimes you are the only light that people see. Some of you may feel like, I don't even know why, my school's so big, there's no way that I can make a difference. There's no way that I can do anything. And you're right, there's no way that you can do anything without God. If God is calling you to do something, He's going to give you the strength to do it. He's going to give you the wisdom to talk to that person. He's going to give you the opportunity to reach somebody. But are you going to be afraid of failing? Are you going to be afraid of, if I start this club, it may not work. People won't show up. Well, what if people do? What if people do show up? You hear stories of people all the time, how their lives were changed because someone didn't give up. Because someone took the time to talk to them and pour into them and listen to their story. You don't have to be amazing with words. You don't have to be the person that knows exactly what to say or give the perfect advice. Sometimes people, all they are looking for is a place to belong. And I see that in so many of you guys. And you may think, I don't get it. I don't understand how we see. Okay, hear me out. How many of you guys know our leaders here, right? You see them, Claire, Sergio, Corbin, Adrian, or whatever, the adults. Okay, we're adults, but, okay, listen. How many of you see us and you're like, oh, they have their lives pretty well figured out. They're living their life. They're, alive. They have nice enough clothes, They brushed their teeth this morning. Maybe. The truth is, I'm going to tell you guys something, and I'm going to be real with you. We don't have anything figured out. At all. I used to think when I was in high school, oh, my leaders, they know what they're talking about. She's an adult, And now, I'm that age of that adult, and I'm like, I don't think we went to the same adulting class because I don't know what's going on. And so, no one has their life figured out. Can I be honest with you right now? If someone says they have their life figured out, they are lying. Or they are very, very, very deceived. Delusional, yeah, that's a good word for it. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. The last point that I kind of want to get into is He already knows what's going to happen. Some of you might be thinking, I don't think we're a choice. Now this may be with a decision you have to make. Some of you seniors that are applying, or juniors, high schoolers in general, you're thinking about high school, and you're thinking about, man, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what if I go to the wrong college, and then I don't meet the right people, and then I don't meet my future husband, and then I die alone, and it's like, breathe, first of all. I think we think a lot more about our situations than we need to. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys a story about me really quick. I went to an internship about 2 or 3 years ago. 2017-ish. Yeah, 3 years ago. And I didn't really pray about doing it. I kind of went without talking to God, which is something you should do if you're going to make a big decision. Is, pray and ask God and stuff like that. Especially when it requires you moving 4 states away. So, yeah, so I was wrong. And when I went there, after a few weeks, I really felt God tugging on my heart that that's not where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be home, here. And that was a really scary time for me. Because I went, I told everyone, yeah, I'm going on this super awesome program thing. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. They get there and it's, you know. I'm like, cool. But, yeah. That's not where you wanted me to be, but I was already there. And I was only there for a few months, this was about like, I literally felt like a year, and it was only like August through November, and I was making, it was so awful. So, hear me out. I felt embarrassed because I told everyone it's going to be great. And then I'm there, I call Ashley, I'm crying on the phone, I'm like, I don't be here, I want to go home. And then I tell her like everything that God's speaking to me, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? Because what if I go back and everyone thinks that I'm a failure? What if everyone thinks that I'm not committed to something, that I don't finish things that I start? What if? I was afraid of looking like a loser. I had people tell me that if I left, that I was walking away from the calling that God has given me. That I was walking away from it. You know how terrifying that is if someone tells you that? You're like, if I leave here, that's going to change my whole destiny. You know, that's intimidating. But I knew what God was speaking to me. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that God was calling me back home. So it was my choice. Am I going to let pride keep me from doing what God wants me to do? Or I'm going to humble myself and follow through? I'm going to tell you right now that leaving that program, not that it was a bad program, but it just was not where I was supposed to be, was the best thing that ever happened. For me. I felt, even after I left, I was like, I shouldn't have even went in the first place. Like, I messed up. You know, I'm coming back. I'm back. I was back. And I was like, what if I didn't leave? What would have happened if I had stayed? And let me tell you, if you haven't noticed already, what if questions will eat you alive. Because no amount of what if questions will ever change your past. But that doesn't take away that God can't use it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Proverbs 16:9 says, we can make our plan, but the Lord determines our steps. If you're following God, if you're reading His Word daily, you're going to be in His will. I hear so many people like, oh, I just want to make sure it's God's will for my life. Like, I don't want to mess up God's will. It's like you're choosing what you want to have for lunch. You're going to be okay. You know, like it's gonna be fine. But I get the pressure. I get the pressure that it can have, especially if you're older, especially if you're a senior. Like, okay, well, what if I don't go to college? You know, that's a big thing for some of you. I dropped out of college. But like, we're gonna talk about that. So, what I mean by that is, God knows you. He knows you. Out of the 5 billion, whatever, how many people there are on this earth, He still knows who you are. He knows what your dreams are. Some of those dreams He's given you, but it is terrifying to think about dreaming about them. Some of you guys have went to camp. Maybe God has called you to do ministry, missions. Okay, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a lot of people excited about going to Africa and going to the bathroom in a hole in the floor.
That'd be so awesome.
So, we're going to trip to Africa. Do you want to go? He's like, No. Hear me out. That it can be scary with what God has called you to do. We talk about real people in the Bible. Moses. You know, he killed a man in his own land, and then God's like, hey, I want you to go back to that place and then set your people free. And he's like, huh? I can't do that. I can't talk right. He's like, okay, I have a friend for you. Now you can do it. And he's like, oh, okay. He goes and asks him to do, he's like, tell the Pharaoh to let your people go. Can you imagine that? Hey, guy, listen, can you let my people, free? And he was told no, obviously, but I'm surprised that he wasn't just killed on the spot for even requesting that. That's insane. David, he messed up. A lot of people, he fought Goliath and he won. That's awesome. But sometimes we do fail. We've talked about people that fail in the Bible, but God still uses them. And David got with another man's wife while her husband was at war. It gets better. And he got her pregnant. Yep. So listen, yeah. No. So this is what happens, right? Okay. And then he's like, hey, you should come back here. So he brings the husband back. And he tells him, go be with your wife. He literally tries to pull the wool over his eyes. It was crazy. So he literally says, go be with your wife. And he says, no, I can't be with my wife while people are in war and I have, And so David says, fine, go to war. And he puts him in the front of the lines and he dies. He literally said, okay, fine, you want to go work. See what happens. And even after that, God still called him a man of his own heart. And you're like, how does that happen? David repented, and he went to God, and he knew what he did was wrong, and he went back to that place and repented. And even through that, the whole, in the begots in the Bible, so-and-so was so-and-so's father, and they gave birth to so-and-so, and the part that everyone just falls asleep on, honestly. Well, I was actually reading that. And turns out, for those of you who don't know, David and Bathsheba, which was the one that he slept with, are his, great times 100 great-grandparents, basically. Jesus, yeah. So through him, Jesus came to be, which is kind of crazy. You're like, you mean Jesus was related to that? Don't say that, because some of y'all know your relatives, so. I'm just kidding. I kid. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Okay. So what about now? Are you going to let fear stop you from talking to that kid at lunch? Are you going to let fear stop you from reaching your school? And I get some of you, that's not the easiest thing to do for starting a club. Guess what you can do? A couple years ago, we had students literally bring donuts and pray at their flagpole once a month. You can do that. That requires no paperwork. It's beautiful. I hate paperwork. That requires almost nothing except for you to show up. You want to sponsor, I guarantee you that someone's willing to help you with donuts for a prayer and whatever at the flagpole. And through that, you get to talk to people. You get to love on people. You get to maybe even share your faith with people who wouldn't give you the time of day in the first place. Or are you going to walk away when God tells you to do something? Because we have a choice. It comes down to it. Are we going to let fear stop us? Are we going to not get out of the boat because the waters are really wavy and it's scary and we could drown? Or are we going to trust that God's going to hold us up? Because if our eyes are on him and he's called you to do something, again, he's going to make a way.
That's right.
Proverbs 3, 5-6 says, trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. There's another verse, and it's, for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, peace, and a sound mind. So if God has called you, given you a dream, or maybe you're waiting on a dream. Maybe you're the God, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I'm scared because I don't want to make the wrong decision. Whatever you're in, I want to pray for you guys tonight. Because ultimately, are you going to take that step of faith?